some years ago when we lived in Washington. While I was shopping, as I always did, I headed first to the clearance section in the grocery store. It was a series of racks which held marked down inventory. Sometimes the items were near or at expiration date. Sometimes they were just closing out items, no longer carrying that product and wanted to get it off the shelves. And sometimes they were dented or damaged items. But always they were a good deal. That day I came across some Starbucks coffee on that clearance rack, marked down to $1.50 a bag, a steal. It had a reasonable sell-by date, and they had numerous bags of this coffee sitting there, even a flavor that we enjoyed. So I grabbed up as many of those bags as I possibly could imagine us using before the expiration date. And there was quite a few left still. And so that's when I took to the people around me. I took to the crowds. I had something worth sharing about. People needed to hear about this deal. So I began to ask people if they needed coffee, because this was a good deal. I had a few takers. One remarked that it was whole bean, and they didn't have a grinder, so they didn't know what they could do with that. To which I responded, there's a Starbucks in our store, and if you take it to them, they'll grind it whatever type of grind you normally like for free, and then you just take it home and use it like you should. They took some too. I finally left wondering why I felt the need to pass out to everyone I met this amazing deal. But the truth is, when you know something is important, when you have something others may need, when you find a really good deal, it's hard to shut up about it. It is from this moment in the text that the revolution began. It was through these women, through those whom Jesus next meets, that the church, which has now reached every nation in the world, was started. That's a humble beginning. And as it is true throughout scriptures, except when Jesus says, don't tell anyone, and sometimes even then, whenever anyone encounters the living Christ and goes away better than they started, they can't help but share. So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. Because that's what we do when we find joy. We go and tell others. When you get engaged, when you get pregnant, when you get a raise, when you get a new job, when you find something that is lost, when someone gets a positive response to a test at the hospital, we share that joy. Today, we have a world of people struggling with debt and insecurity, struggling with fear and doubt, with illness and death, struggling to survive another lonely day. There are many who wonder, when will hope shine? When will they finally get a break? When will life get easier? I believe we have the answer this day. Death no longer has power over us. Sin no longer wins. Evil no longer wins. We are no longer alone. God can bring, even to the darkest moment, light. What's more, the many problems of the world, when faced not alone but with God and the power of a community, are easily conquered. For facing a hard struggle with the steadfastness of a friend, the struggle is less hard. For fighting injustice with an army of supporters is easier. For knowing that this life is not the end makes even death easier to take. Hope, when grasped, makes any journey lighter. Go ahead and grab hold of those close to you. Share the joy that you have found. Don't be afraid to share your findings with those passing by. I was a bit of a fool that day in the grocery store. People did look at me a little funny. But knowing I had something that others needed allowed me to cast off the normal fear and doubt which surrounds evangelism. Those women, followed by the disciples and followed by those who heard the good news, not just moved a mountain, but changed the face of this world. People need hope, and we have that hope. The world needs the sacrificial love God offers, and we have a light which can shine bright even in the darkest of situations, and a love which surpasses fear. Shout it far and wide, because Jesus has risen. He is risen indeed. Amen.